Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. Today, we're talking about a few things. I haven't talked to you guys in a little bit, of course. Last time I talked to you guys was following the Dodgers series loss to the Padres. Since then, you guys know that I've been dealing with the recovery of my broken ankle. I since then got COVID since the last time I talked to you, so I've been recovering from COVID, celebrated my mom's birthday, so there's been a lot going on. That's why I haven't done a podcast in over a week now, but I'm glad to get back on here and talk to you guys. I've missed you. So since we last talked, the Dodgers swept the Reds and then lost 2 out of 3 to the Diamondbacks. So we're going to talk about all that. It's going to be a little bit all over the place, kind of out of order. We'll also do a little bit of looking ahead with the final 25 games of the season. Obviously, we're now in September. It's September 2nd. We're going to talk about a lot of things. It's going to be a little bit all over the place, so I apologize in advance. But if you stick with me, we're going to talk all some good Dodger things. So, as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on social media at Talkin' Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talkin' Blue Nick. I've been tweeting a bunch of stuff lately about the pitching staff, some guys on offense like Mookie, like Freddie Freeman, some defensive stuff on Mookie. So if you want to see all that, you can check it out. I had one of my first really viral Twitter X posts on Edgardo Henriquez, so that was really cool. So if you want to check out all that, there's a bunch of breakdowns on my X. You can look at all that. And then you can get into the conversation on Reddit at competitive-week8715. Just posted another thing on there about Mookie Betts and his defense. So, like I said, the last time I talked to you guys, it was post-Padres-Dodgers series going into that Reds series. Since then, they swept the Reds, so that was really good, but then they lost 2 out of 3 to the Diamondbacks. So, continues the inconsistent play. When you kind of take a step back and look at it, they have played a lot better and have looked a lot better. And as a whole, things do look a lot better. We know that they were a game up on the Padres. Currently, it's a 2.5 game lead on the Padres, so that's very good. In the middle of sweeping the Reds, they actually jumped the Phillies for the lead in the seeding. If you don't know, when it comes to the playoffs and how the playoff system works now, there's 6 teams in each league, the 3 division winners, and then you have 3 wildcard teams. The 2 best records get a bye to the next round, the division series, and you don't have to play in the wild card. The 3rd division winner, the division winner that has the worst record, is the 3rd seed, and they do play in the wild card round. They will end up playing the 6th seed. So right now, the Dodgers are the 3 seed. So right now, if they were to win the division but finish behind the Phillies, you don't really get much of a benefit from winning the division because you still play in the wild card round. So that's where the inconsistency has kind of hurt them because going into that weekend, they didn't play on Thursday and the Phillies did, so the Phillies ended up tying them. But when the Dodgers swept the Reds, they jumped the Phillies for that 2 seed, which is really good, obviously. Then they ended up playing not so good over the weekend. The Phillies got hot after last week. The Phillies got swept by the Mets. Then they won 3 out of 4 against the Braves. But Sunday, when the Dodgers won, the Braves beat the Phillies, so that kind of helped. So we'll get to all that quickly. We'll do some injury stuff, and then I'm going to run through the last 3 games that I missed. Just going to go over the score and then my feelings about the games. We'll just do that quick because I'm not going to recap all the games. We're a little too far behind that. Roster and injury updates. Obviously, September 2nd, if you don't know, opens up 2 roster moves. So you get to add 2 players. Don't lose anybody. Don't have to send anyone down. Long gone are the days where it used to be 40-man roster where you would basically call up like 15 people or something crazy. It's just a 20. It goes from a 26-man roster to 28. So the 2 moves the Dodgers are going to make are Michael Kopech and Ha-Seong Kim. So they get a relief pitcher and they get a infielder utility player. So when it comes to the injuries, since I last talked to you guys, Kike has come off the IL, and then obviously Kopech and Ha-Seong Kim. So those are 3 guys that are done. Max Muncy. So last time I talked to you guys, it was looking like where we're at now, Muncy was going to have returned. All the talk was that he would return at the next road trip. Since then, he actually got sick. I wonder if he got COVID like myself. And he kind of had to put a pause on his ramp up and stuff. So instead, this week, the first week of September, he will now begin his rehab assignment. That probably means he's not going to play all week, which that kind of sucks. So it probably just means this week the Dodgers go to Pittsburgh and then Baltimore, and then they come back home after that. Next week they come back home and play the Rockies. That's probably when Muncy will rejoin the team. So that kind of sucks because it was looking like, he'd come back this week, so you kind of miss another week of Muncy. But theoretically, if you're playing the Pirates and you're playing the Orioles, who are the Orioles this year, you should be able to beat them without Muncy. It just kind of stinks, but that's where he's at. So, again, maybe, I guess, there's a chance he could come back at the end of the week because technically he was set to come back. It's just that he got sick, but I don't think they're going to, fly him out to Baltimore or something like that. One of the bigger news, Alex Vesia went on the IL at the beginning of last week with a right oblique strain. That was a little scary when I first saw that. Now, there was a lot of people who seemed to think it was like a phantom IL, which is like something you do to just get a guy off his feet, just like a fake injury, basically. It does look like it's a real injury, but he has already begun his throwing schedule, and he also is going on a rehab assignment this week. As you could imagine, probably, again, returns next week against the Rockies. Tommy Edman, again, has been doing live at-bats. He's set to begin a rehab assignment as well. Again, they might take a little bit more time with Tommy Edman. I'm assuming in a week when they play the Rockies in L.A., Muncy and Vesia will be there. I don't know if Tommy Edman will because he hasn't played for a while, so they might get him a little bit more at-bats. I also don't know. I thought the minor league season ends at the end of August. Maybe not, but maybe there's playoffs or something like that. But usually minor league rehab and stuff like that are hard to come by in September, but I'm not sure. So maybe Tommy Edman is back. It looks like he's getting close, and that's good. And then Brock Stewart is one of the last real updates. He looks like it's 50-50 if he'll be back. All these other guys look like they'll definitely be back. He received an additional cortisone shot in his shoulder, and he has resumed throwing, so I think he'll be back, but there's a chance it's like the last 2 weeks of September, so we'll see what happens there. That's pretty much all the updates. Roki Sasaki, he continues his throwing program, or I should say his rehab down in the minor leagues. I think he will throw his fourth rehab assignment this week, and then we'll see what happens. Again, I thought that was interesting. They don't necessarily need him at the moment, so I don't know if that means he'll come back, bullpen role. We'll see how all that works out. The Dodgers also signed Andrew Heaney, old friend, who was placed on waivers from the Pirates. Was having a good year to start the year, but if you look at most of his metrics, they're pretty bad. So I guess that's just depth. We'll see if the Dodgers ever actually need him. So that's pretty much all the injury updates. We're looking for Muncy, Vesia, and Tommy Edman to hopefully come back in the next 2 weeks. And then we'll see what happens with Brock Stewart. And other than that, a lot of the injury moves and a lot of the roster, if you look right now at their team, of course, they have all the guys in their rotation that they pretty much want. Snell, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Kershaw, and then obviously Ohtani's building up. If you look at the bullpen, Tanner Scott's come back. We know that he blew a hold. I guess it technically is a save, but he gave up a 3-run homer. We'll get to that. Blake Trinan is back. Edgardo Henriquez has looked really good. Bonda, Kirby Yates has continued to kind of struggle. Now we get back Kopech. So for the most part, the bullpen is set. You would just like to see Brock Stewart, another right-handed option, and then obviously Vesia. So the bullpen's looking good. A lot of the injuries, we're kind of in a good spot right now where guys are coming off the IL. Obviously, there's still time for guys to get hurt or re-injured, but guys are coming off the IL with enough time to build up. Max Muncy should have a full month, basically, of at-bats under his belt. Tommy Edman will have a good amount of weeks. Other guys, too, will have a good enough time to throw. So they should theoretically be in a good spot come postseason time, but we will, of course, see what happens. So quickly, I'll just talk about the games. Dodgers, of course, swept the Reds, so there was a lot of good here. Emmett Sheehan pitched on Monday against the Reds, 7 shutout innings, struck out 10. Probably the best performance of his young career. A lot of whiffs in that game. He, again, another guy who I actually haven't talked too much about the last few months, Interested to see the role in Sheehan. Again, probably one of these guys that the Dodgers so often like use throughout the regular season, especially the last few years with the injuries, and then don't know what their role will come October. Obviously, Sheehan has only thrown like 50 innings, but he's got really good numbers on the air. His ERA is like in the mid threes. We know he's got the electric fastball. He's actually had really good off-speed pitches this year, a really good slider, really good changeup. Those pitches have actually been better than his fastball, but he's getting a lot of swings and misses. That's always been the promising thing about Emmett Sheehan. So we'll see what happens with him. He probably will make the roster, the postseason roster, and be used in some kind of bullpen role. So more pitching that can't help. It's pretty cool. I really like him. I think he is really valuable to the organization because he's young. He shows the potential upside of a really good pitcher. I don't know if he has the upside to be like an ace. Again, as Dodger fans, we're very stubborn, or I guess I should say, like we're used to guys being so good that we're used to these guys like Yamamoto, Kershaw in his prime. I don't know if Emmett Sheehan will ever be an ace like that, but he's a really young guy that is going to be really valuable at the least. That could the Dodgers use him in a trade at some point, or obviously they're going to need, they could use him on their own team. So I really like Emmett Sheehan. I think he'll stay with the Dodgers, and I think in the future of their rotation is obviously Yamamoto, Sasaki at some point. Guys like Glasnow and Snell are not gone, but those are the younger guys. Sheehan is a part of that, so it's really cool. I think he's going to get some big outs for them in the postseason. Again, it's just going to be a little bit of a tough role for him because he's probably not going to get any starts. I do believe they I forgot if this already happened, but they will skip him in the rotation this week. This week against the Pirates and the Orioles, it's going to go Kershaw Tuesday, Shohei Wednesday, and then actually Snell will pitch on Thursday. Then it will go Glasnow, Yamamoto, and then I would imagine Kershaw again. And then Sheehan will come out of the bullpen at some point, probably in the Shohei start. So we'll see. Something like that is probably what we could see from him in the rotation or out of the bullpen in the postseason. And then Andy Paz, he had 2 home runs in this game, both off of Hunter Green. Has 3 career home runs off of Hunter Green. That's cool. So, again, he's closing in on a 25-homer plus season, racking up WAR, playing good defense in center. Paz is only 24 years old, I think, so really good second year from him. Game 2, Clayton Kershaw pitched really good again. Really dominant numbers for him in the month of August. He was actually the Dodgers' best pitcher in the month of August. We'll get to that. Game 3, Shohei Ohtani was on the mound. First time that he completes 5 innings, first win in a Dodger uniform, so that's pretty cool. 5 innings, I think he had 9 strikeouts in this game. Dodgers win 5-1. Conforto also had a homer in this game, so they sweep the Reds, like I said earlier in the week. Vibes were good. Really good feeling. Going into that game Monday, it just felt like the Dodgers were finally going to get hot. It really felt that way when I was watching the game before anything happened. It seemed like it was, buzzing in the ballpark, and they backed that up. So they go into the weekend now playing the Diamondbacks. I knew the Diamondbacks would be kind of a tricky team. They're kind of like a 500 team. They've been good the last few years, we know. Really good offense. Traded away a bunch of guys at this deadline because they kind of fell out of it. Bad pitching. So I was interested to see, I thought it was a chance that the Diamondbacks would be a little tough. We've talked about it lately. The Dodgers are now currently in their stretch of schedule where they don't play a lot of good teams. But the Diamondbacks, of those bad teams, are probably at the top of that list, I guess you would say. I thought they still had a really good offense. When you dive into their numbers, it's really just Ketel Marte and Herdaldo, Perdomo, and then Corbin Carroll. Other than that, a lot of the guys are like league average or below league average. But they actually came into the series playing really well and hitting really well. I thought coming into the series, the Dodgers needed to hit because the Diamondbacks are going to hit. Diamondbacks have very bad pitching. So I thought it was a series where that if the Dodgers bats showed up, which they should because the Diamondbacks have horrible pitching and every guy they faced had a pretty high ERA, that they could win. The problem was that didn't really happen. The Dodgers lost 2 out of 3, didn't really hit the first 2 games. Again, Zach Gallen, who had an ERA over 5, and Eduardo Rodriguez, who the Dodgers always crush and also had a bad ERA. they got dominated by them. So again, just more inconsistent play. The first game was Snell against Gallen. Snell actually pitched pretty good in this game. Dodgers just had no offense and ended up losing 3-0. This was a game that wasn't too bad. Again, they had played well coming into this game. Just for whatever reason, Gallen pitched good against them. If you come back and bounce back the next 2 games, you actually can go 5-1 throughout the week, only have 1 loss, and then you go into, again, another stretch against some not good, so good teams. Then they went into game 2 against Eduardo Rodriguez. Again, no offense, left runners on base. And then the Dodgers actually didn't play that well in this game. Really bad base running mistake. There was a play where Kike was on third, Shohei was at the plate, hit a sac fly to left field. Was supposed to be a sac fly. Kike gets thrown out at the plate. He didn't slide. At first, it looked like it was Kike's fault for not sliding, which it partially is. Then, Mookie Betts, who was the on-deck hitter, when you're in the on-deck and there's a plate to play, you're kind of supposed to direct the oncoming runner, tell him which way to slide, get down, stuff like that. Mookie was kind of he just wasn't in the right spot. He was pointing to Kike to slide to the right side of the plate because the throw was on like the third base side, the third base dugout side. He couldn't see him because of where he was standing, so Kike went in standing. It actually looked like he was safe, but it was way too close of a play. They were never going to overturn it. That was really frustrating because the Dodgers, I think, could have went up 1-0 at that point. Then the Diamondbacks eventually came back. The game looked more out of reach than it actually was. The Diamondbacks were really just up 3-1. Then they ended up hitting a 3-run homer in the 9th. So again, a game or a series going into that, at least you felt confident the Dodgers were going to put up runs because the Diamondbacks have bad pitching. You just needed to get some decent pitching performances. You did. Snell pitched pretty good. I think he went like 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts. Then Glasnow was actually dominant early on. He just kind of fell apart later in the game. But again, it just was 2 or 3 earned runs. The Dodgers just had no offense against 2 pretty bad pitchers. So that's what really lost them the game, was that early in the 2 games, you just had no offense. And then the Diamondbacks were eventually going to put up runs because they actually do have a good offense. So coming to game 3, once again, Yamamoto, their ace, is on the mound. Need a good performance from him, but mostly you just need runs because so far you've got 2 good pitching performances. Go up against Brandon Pfaadt. Dodgers won this game. Of course, it was a walk-off home run. Early in the game, they had a nice, comfortable lead that was eventually blown by Tanner Scott in the 8th inning. I think it was with 2 outs. The tying run at the plate, Corbin Carroll. The Dodgers had a 4-1 lead. Corbin Carroll, left on if a Tanner Scott hits a 3-run homer. It's a good piece of hitting. Corbin Carroll's really good. He's one of the best players in the game, actually. The thing that sucked about this game was that it kind of just gives you that another feeling that you can't trust Tanner Scott. He had been really good coming off the IL in only the couple appearances. His stuff has looked really good. And once again, it was like, for some reason, Tanner Scott just can't get the fastball up in the zone sometimes. And he's been a much different pitcher this year. In his career, he's always been a guy who has a lot of walks and gets a lot of strikeouts. This year, he does have decent strikeout numbers, but the walks have been way down for him, which is really good that he's not walking hitters, of course, but I wonder if it has caused him to be in the strike zone way more, and that's why he's kind of gotten hit around a little bit more. So I wonder if the Dodgers thought they were fixing something by improving his command and his walks, but I wonder if it's kind of done a double effect by, it's increased the amount that he's in the strike zone, which has increased the contact and stuff like that. So again, don't love where the bullpen is at, especially with Tanner Scott. But I've said this before, if you're going to win a World Series, you need these guys like Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates. Not as much Kirby Yates. Really surprising. Him and Conforto are like the 2 most confusing guys for me this year. Conforto went deep in that Red Series and actually tweeted out, like, I still want Conforto DFA'd. And you guys know I don't do a lot of negative talk and stuff like that, but I still want Conforto DFA'd. But it's been so confusing that he's actually been so terrible this year. The same thing with Kirby Yates. Those were 2 guys that I was so confident were going to be such savvy moves for the Dodgers. Again, I didn't think Kirby Yates was going to become like the closer and have like a year like Aroldis Chapman is having this year, like dominant year. Or Same thing with Conforto. I didn't think he was going to get like MVP votes, but I really thought Conforto would be a really solid bat who puts up like 115 OPS plus, 118, hits 20 homers, hits good against right-handed pitching, even though last year he was better against lefties, have good on base numbers, stuff like that. And then Kirby Yates, I thought, again, was going to be a guy who was a high-leverage guy. Again, maybe not a closer, but a really solid reliever that gets a lot of strikeouts. Neither of that has been the case. Now, Kirby Yates still gets strikeouts, and he still brings that to the table. But what's really hurt him is that his command, which has never been super great, but his command has been really bad this year, so he constantly has base runners. It just seems like he hasn't had a feel a lot for his splitter this year. Again, a guy that I could get on board with come postseason time. He's a guy who could just figure it out come postseason and could just be racking up strikeouts, and I'll believe in that. So those are two really weird signings that just haven't panned out for the Dodgers for whatever reason. Still believe in Blake Trinan. He's been a lot better. Edgardo Henriquez has been a nice add. I really like him. Anthony Bonda has been better. Jack Dreyer's been really good. I think Kopech's going to be really good. Again, guys like Sheehan will probably go to the bullpen. There's a world where they once again have a really good bullpen, because to me, if you have Trinan and Vesia, those are kind of like your go-to guys, plus Kopech. Again, Scott would probably be used in a later, earlier role, I should say. We'll see how it all plays out. I think there's a world where the Dodgers have a really good bullpen. So those are all the games that we missed last week. Yamamoto once again stepped up, 10 strikeouts. He's, again, top 10 pitcher in the game this year. And I've talked about before, guys potentially taking the ball game one over Yamamoto. Snell has been really good. And I talked about how Ohtani's stuff was really good, where I thought that was a possibility. No more. Yamamoto will be pitching game one for the Dodgers. At least he should be. Glasnow and Snell have been very good for the Dodgers, although Glasnow still has some walk issues. But if you look at his overall numbers, he's got an ERA of like 3.48 or something like that. And then Snell, if you look at his numbers on the year, doesn't have a ton of strikeouts, but since he's come off the IL, has been racking up strikeouts. So right now, if it was up to me, if I was picking a rotation for the playoffs, it would probably go Yamamoto game one, Snell game two, probably Glasnow game three, and then some form of Shohei, Kershaw. We'll see. Kershaw, because of his older age, I'm still a little scared of what he would look like in the playoffs, especially because he has no strikeouts at all. But you just can't deny the greatness of him, and he's been good this year. He was dominant in the month of August. So, again, we'll see how all that plays out. But the rotation in the pitching has been very good, especially in the second half. I put this out on my X. The Dodgers have the third best ERA as a team in the second half. So, they have sacrificed a bit of offense since then. We know that in the month of July they were really bad, and then in this month of August they had a lot of guys who had good numbers, but still had a lot of guys who did struggle. So in the month of August they didn't have like the best offensive numbers. Before I get into all that stuff, I'll just talk about this. Dodgers have 25 games left to go. We've kind of broken down like how many games to go when it was 40 games, 30 games, stuff like that. You guys remember when they got swept by the Angels, I talked about how I really thought that would be a turning point for the Dodgers, and we would look back and kind of say, like, post-Angel sweep, this is how they played. Since then, I think they've gone 10-6. I think that was 16 games ago, 10 wins. So that's pretty good. They played well since then. Obviously swept the Padres, swept the Reds, won a couple other series. So they have been better. Definitely as a whole and as a team, they've been better in the month of August. Now, they only went 15-13 in August, so it wasn't a dominant month by any means. Very up and down, obviously, only a couple games over 500. So it wasn't the most dominant August, but it was better than the month of July. I think in the month of September, it will look more like they did in June and May. They play a lot of bad teams, so I think that's going to help them. 25 games left to play. It'll come against the Pirates, which starts today. Then this weekend against the Orioles. The following week at home, it'll be against Colorado. Then against the Giants. Then what will probably be the biggest series of the year at this, the last big series of the year, the Phillies. That will come in the middle of September. The Phillies, 3 games in LA. Hopefully, guys like Yamamoto and Glasnow and Snell can line up for that series. Then they actually play San Francisco again. I think that's a 4-game series, which will be their last 4-game series of the year and their last homestand of the year. Then in the final week, they go to Arizona and then Seattle. So like I said, only 2 teams above 500. That's Philly and Seattle. So right now, they have a 2.5-game lead in the division. Last night, the Padres lost against the Orioles, and the Dodgers were off, so that's why it's a 2.5-game lead. They are 1.5 games back of the Phillies. The Phillies currently are playing the Brewers. It's kind of like helps and hurts the Dodgers. Really, the Dodgers should put the 1 seed out of their mind. At this point, for them to go to catch the 1 seed, they would have to go like nuclear hot, and then the Brewers would have to have a little bit of not a free fall, but just they would have to kind of go cold the rest of the month. And I don't really see that happening. So they should have their eyes set on winning the division and catching the Phillies. 1.5-game lead. So if the Phillies could lose today and then the Dodgers could win, it would be back down to a half game. So if the Phillies didn't, they were also, since the Dodgers were off yesterday, the Phillies played against the Brewers and won. That's why it's a 1.5-game lead. Dodgers winning on Sunday and the Phillies losing really helped them. That they're still in the hunt for that. If they can get it to a half game, 1 game, whatever lead, or even if you're down a game going into that Philly series, you put yourself in a spot where if you can win that series, you can come out of it on top, and then you just got to finish strong. So like I said, they went 15-13 in August. Some of the guys who played really well in August, obviously Max Muncy, now it was only 8 games, but he had he hit 348 with a 531 on base and an 870 slug, so he absolutely dominated in those 4 games. But of the guys, so going into August, of course, one of the things was how bad they were in July and basically how bad the big 3 was. In the month of August, this is really good. Shohei had a 178 weighted runs created plus. Freddie had a 170. And then Mookie, it only was 114. That's because Mookie was ice cold coming into August. The first week of August, they played the Rays, and then they played the Cardinals after that. Like the first 4 games, Mookie went hitless, and then after that is kind of where his hot streak is gone. If you take out the first 4 games, Mookie has like almost a 900 OPS. So he was really good in the month of August. It's just that those first couple games kind of tank the numbers from like really good numbers. Then after that, Alex Call and Andy Pajes were just league average. So the guys who struggled, Will Smith, Miguel Rojas fell off, Conforto, and then Teoscar. So really what you want in the month of August is for guys like Will Smith to bounce back. August was Will's like only bad month of this year, and even with the bad month, he still has an OPS over 900, so I think Will's going to be all right. What you really need for the month of August is for Teoscar and Pajes to look better. Pajes was not that bad, but it was saved a little by the last couple weeks. Teoscar is the biggest guy for me. His numbers on the year actually have fallen below league average. He has a 99 weighted runs created plus on the year. That means he's been below league average. That is very bad. He needs to be better than that. And if he can get hot in the month of September, like Mookie, then both of their numbers can get above league average. In the month of August on the mound, Clayton Kershaw was their best pitcher. He had an ERA of 1.88. But Anthony Bonda also pitched good. Blake Trinan, pretty solid. Blake Snell, obviously, this was his month back. Jack Dreyer. The guys who struggled, Shohei did struggle. Vesia has struggled in this month. Yamamoto actually not struggled, but wasn't dominant either. So a really good pitching month. Like I said, if you look at their numbers in the second half, they've been one of the best pitching teams. So it's almost like the Dodgers have sacrificed some offense for some better pitching numbers. Because if you look at their overall numbers for the entire season, in the middle of the year, they were about the best team in baseball. If you were going into July, which at that point is basically 3 months, April, May, June, they were the best offense in baseball. Since July and August, where they were really bad in July, and then in August they were better, but also not that great, they are still a top 5 offense, but they have dropped behind teams like the Yankees, the Brewers, and Toronto. So again, they are second in baseball in home runs, third in runs, second in walk percentage. Batting average, they're 7th. They were higher in that. On base, they're 4th. They usually were 1st or 2nd. Slugging percentage, they're 2nd. And then team weighted runs created plus, they're 4th. So pretty much behind the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Brewers. They're still a top 5 offense. If you can have a top 5 offense and then have much better pitching, you're going to take that. That's going to help you win in October, especially because they're still a team that hits home runs. They still have been better with runners in scoring position. Not the best in baseball anymore. I think that is now the Brewers, but I think they're 2nd. But they do have the most 2-out runs in baseball, so that's good. So they still do a lot of things offensively that's going to help them win in October, and getting better pitching in the second half. Like, honestly, if you ask me to be honest, I would have sacrificed some offense for better pitching. It's going to help you win. So would like to have for their offense to be better, and that can help in the second half. I think guys like Mookie getting better are going to help. So Mookie, like I said, played really good in August. Would love to see that continue in September. He is starting to at least make you feel better about him hitting in the 2 spot. I talked about this. This is kind of how my brain thinks about it. You don't want to have Mookie go into a postseason game and then his numbers flash on the scoreboard, and someone, if you're not really a Dodger fan who follows the Dodgers day to day, you might think, why is this guy with a sub 700 OPS hitting second? And at the very least, if he gets hot and kind of has, let's say he has similar numbers in September, and he kind of starts to get that OPS back up to like 715, 720. Still not a good year. Like we said, it's kind of a wash year for Mookie. At the very least, you could say he played really well in the second half, and especially in the last 2 months of the season. So we'll see how that happens. But Freddie was good in the month of August. Very good. Shohei on the year. When we look at guys on the year so far, obviously Shohei, he's weighted runs created plus 165, one of the best in the league. Will Smith, 152. Even though he struggled mightily in August, 152 is still elite. Max Muncy, only 89 games this year, but 146. We know he's been great. Freddie Freeman, 141. I think that's also top 10. And then you have guys like Paez, 115, who's been very good. But like I said, guys like Teoscar and Mookie falling off has really hurt them. So hopefully Teoscar, they did give him a couple days off, so hopefully he can get hot. The thing that was kind of bad about Teoscar, I noticed over the weekend and as of late, was him not crushing left-handed pitching. He was in there against Lodolo on the Reds, who's a lefty, and then Rodriguez of the Diamondbacks, and then there were other pitchers as well. And he was striking out a lot, and that's usually one of his calling cards, is that he crushes left-handed pitching. So again, last year he was really dominant, like 134 weighted runs created plus, which is great. At the very least, if he was going to have an offensive fall off this year, you would have thought at least he can crush left-handed pitching, which he still has, but I just noticed that as of late. He's been a below-league average hitter now. He's been bad for a long time. He was better at the end of July, early August, so it's just as of late he's been very cold. So super streaky guy. Hopefully he can get hot down the stretch. Another guy like Kirby Yates, like I mentioned, like if he got hot in October, nobody would, you would believe in him because he's a really good hitter. And then another thing that would help the Dodgers is Tommy Edman coming back. Obviously, I gave you guys some of my thoughts on the defense a few weeks ago. I was kind of saying how I wouldn't mind seeing Mookie go back to right, or I've been, on board with Mookie playing short this year in his defense. It's more about Teoscar's defense in right and Conforto's defense at left when he's out there. It's looking like Edman's going to come back. I would imagine he will play some more center field. Hopefully that could kick Teoscar to left and Paez to right. For some reason, they haven't loved doing that. They've still put Teoscar in right and Paez in left. I am fearful that they're still going to do that. I hope that they switch it up. It would be funny if Teoscar played like the entire year in right field and then the last 2 weeks goes back to left. I wonder if that's just would be their fear, is that he's been comfortable in right this year, or just he's been out there all year, but still, Paez is an elite defender, and Tommy Edman came up as an infielder. When he actually plays center field, he's actually pretty elite. So he would help a lot of things. And really, what Tommy Edman needs to do is come back and just be better with the bat. It's kind of funny how Tommy Edman started out the year so amazing. If you guys remember, he was one of the best hitters in April, and then he just steadily, kept getting dinged up with the ankle, and then just was a nothing on offense. So I believe in Tommy Edman. last year when the Dodgers traded for him, he was like a league average bat basically. And then we obviously know what he did in the postseason. If he comes off the IL and the at-bats look good, he can get his numbers closer to league average, and then who knows? We'll see what he can do come postseason time. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Summing up a lot of things that have happened lately. I should be able to have some more normal things. Sum up the Pirates series, sum up the Orioles series. Like I said, 25 games to go. Dodgers did start off this stretch of poor teams pretty well. I mean, if you zoom out of those 2 losses in Arizona, they had that walk-off home run Sunday, swept the Reds. So you got to take advantage of these teams. The Pirates do have some decent pitching. Actually, the first 2 guys they're going to face this week have decent numbers, and then they're going to face Paul Skeens on Thursday. And have the offense go to Pittsburgh and be cold because they are one of the worst teams in baseball this year. And I think what they're really bad at is that they have no offense. If you actually look at their lineup, they have no above league average hitters pretty much. They're all so the Dodgers should be able to prevent runs in the series. The bats need to show up. You got to be able to put runs, especially against the first 2 guys, and then against Paul Skeens, just got to try to do your best to put up good at bats. Then they will go to Baltimore. Again, you just got to take advantage of these teams. Have one of the easier schedules going forward. I think the Padres have the easiest in terms of strength of schedule. The Yankees have a really easy schedule going forward. The Dodgers have a pretty easy one too. I think they're like the 5 easiest schedules going forward. The Dodgers are in that top 5. So, like I said, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Colorado. The Giants are more of a team like Arizona, who are like a 500 team, but still they've been below 500 for most of the year, or at least the last couple months. And then, like I said, the Rockies. So, you got to take advantage of these poor teams, and when you get to Philadelphia in a couple weeks, you're feeling good. Guys have come back, so I think they're in a good spot. They should get Muncy back in a week. Hopefully, they can take care of these games. I would like to see a sweep from one of these teams, like sweep the Pirates, and then win 2 out of 3 against the Orioles, and then again 5-1 week. Next week, play the Rockies at home. Should be able to sweep them. We'll see though. They just struggled to sweep the Rockies, or win a series, I should say. So, got to take advantage of these poor teams. You got to play really good. There, 25 games remain. We'll see how many of those games they can win. But thank you guys for listening. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Talking Blue Nick, as well as Reddit at Competitive-Week 8715. We will see you guys at the conclusion of this Pirates-Dodgers series. Thank you so much for listening.